This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. When I look at modern gaming, a lot of it does make me want to look back to the older times and very much appreciate how good we used to have it. Everything seems to have ballooned too much within the AAA space. Games and budgets feel really bloated. Now sure, they still make some really good games here, and we have a strong indie market along with a AA space that helps to make fun titles too. But when you look at something like Sony, where they seem to only be interested in mostly drawn out film-like experiences, or something like Xbox, where it seems like they just keep fumbling every opportunity to gain some momentum. Recently, Microsoft announced a bunch of studio closures, and one of them was Tango Gameworks. This one really caught me by surprise, and I personally think this was a big mistake for them. This is a studio that was really bringing some good variety here, and would help to strengthen any portfolio that it was part of. And today, I just want to talk about them for a bit. Tango Gameworks is or was easily one of my favorite studios of the last few years. They made some really great games and showed that they could do so many different things while still making something engaging and very fun. They had that charm and weirdness that I love from Asian developed games, along with a level of creativity, whether it be from the stories that were told, the storytelling, gameplay mechanics, or even just captivating visuals. They were doing different things, but like a good kind of different that actually paid off. This is where it feels like Microsoft shot themselves in the foot by letting a studio like this close. It honestly doesn't make any sense. I have not had the opportunity to play their most recent game, Hi-Fi Rush, but from what I could tell, it was a hit for the studio. Plus, added to it was a good reception from both critics and especially fans. I have no idea how the sales were, and even if the game wasn't a huge seller, it is these types of games and that different sort of stuff that helps to boost up the library so that you can offer a potential gamer looking at what Microsoft has to offer and keep them interested. Now sure, you need your big hitters like say Halo and Forza along with other titles, but the smaller ones and maybe even the bit weird ones, this is where you attract even more people to your console or platform. Now I do have my own personal bias when it comes to Tango. Like I said, I love this studio. They were one of the ones that whenever they were making something new, I really wanted to pay attention to it, because I always knew they were going to deliver on it. Plus their first 3 games are easily some of my favorites. They had a lot of talent, and more importantly, they knew how to deliver. Let me dive into The Evil Within 1 for a bit. When this came out, I had a blast with it. I still do. It had some of that main talent behind the original Resident Evil 4. It was looking to be inspired by that, but while at the same time be a completely new thing. Visually, the game was striking. It was this dark, gritty, and twisted world you needed to fight through. When talking about the first Evil Within, the word weird definitely comes up a lot. The story itself is both good and one that can be a bit confusing, and I think some of this is intentional. You are essentially stuck within the mind of a madman, so at times it can feel like you are exploring a nightmare. This is even seen with how the levels transition to other areas. It felt like anything could happen and made for a fun setting for a game. I do think some of the storytelling could have been tightened up a bit here, because there is a bit of head scratching at times, but at the same time I really enjoyed the ride. It's a great backdrop for a video game. Gameplay wise, it is very similar to Resident Evil 4, where you need to use your supplies wisely, explore each of the levels for all the items that you can find, and then upgrade with the use of that green gel you'll see. I love the first Evil Within, but when the sequel came out, I was very impressed with what they were able to do there. There was some shuffling on who was leading this project, and I think for a studio's second game, they nailed it, and as a sequel, it surpassed my expectations. I loved the first Evil Within, and I really loved the second game. So one big change came from the story. I do think that the weird and twisted elements are still presented well here, but they are not as crazy as they were in the first. But when you combine this with a more traditional story structure to the narrative, I think it creates this engaging mixture where I found myself emotionally invested in the characters in 2 more than I was in 1. 1 had that feeling of what is going on, whereas 2, I always knew what was going on and wanted these characters to succeed. Gameplay-wise, it was very similar to the first, but they provided a handful of areas within the game that are more like hub-like open areas, so the exploration is huge here, with lots of options and plenty to find. They help to break up the more linear levels, mix this in with a set of memorable villains, and you have a sequel that does what it sets out to do. On top of this, it delivers a finale that ends the game very strongly from both a gameplay and story standpoint. There is room for sure for another game, but it smartly provided satisfying closure, which in hindsight I'm very happy they did, since now we're really not going to see an Evil Within 3 anytime. So some stuff is left open, and for a horror title that is okay, but I do wish that we were able to live within a world where we got maybe just one more game. Now their third game was a departure from what they made before. Yes, it had horror elements through all of the supernatural stuff going on, but this was going more for an action-adventure title. But the bigger switch is that it would now be in first person. When it wasn't exclusive on PS5, it was easily one of my favorite games there. For many of the games released there now, I'm really not that interested in. Ghostwire was one that really caught me and kept me invested. It had that charming weirdness that I really like about the studio, as well as a cool environment and space to be within. The gameplay was interesting because on the surface it looks like a first-person shooter, which in many ways it is, but the game is much slower than you would initially think. But the mixture of different powers, items, and equipment made it something all its own. On the story side of things, there is a relationship between this guy and a spirit that is being held within his body. The two of them have some great chemistry, and I think that is what helps to keep the story strong throughout. Ghostwire was definitely a title that I think many pass by, but it is one that I think many should check out. Plus now you can find it on PC and Xbox too. Again, more titles that help to keep this space interesting. When I saw that Tango Gameworks was closed, I wanted to make something, saying my own goodbyes to them. Some might say, why didn't you talk about Hi-Fi Rush? Like I said, I haven't played it yet, and it is one of those games that I'm not really into those rhythm-type titles, but it is one that I want to try out at some point because I love the developer. That's why today I wanted to touch on the other games that I found special that they made. It is a shame that this team is now gone because they definitely had more games in them to share with the world. Maybe they will all get together and make a brand new studio with the same talent. Here is my personal goodbye to Tango Games, and they were something special. I'm gonna miss them. What are your thoughts on their closure? Did you enjoy any of their games? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.